y'all? It's your boy KevOnStage.
And I am Playmaker Jason.
Jason Fredericks. He's here in LA, man.
I'm here, man. Tired, man. Kevin got me on these videos. As soon as I get here, it's to work.
He spent the night last night.
I had to, man.
My brother slept on my floor on an air mattress.
I did, man.
He's my brother and I love him like myself. All right, so we were talking on Twitter yesterday. Actually, me and Jay and my friends were talking about it in our chat, so I put it up on YouTube, or excuse me, Twitter. Let's talk about it. The question was, why do you think the church treats gay people so differently?
I think they treat them so differently because, as we were saying, it was considered the ultimate sin, the abomination, the thing that was so against the normality of what everybody did that it was like, oh my God, you can't do nothing if you're gay.
Right. Now listen, let's go to Twitter and see what Twitter said about it. So I put the question up on Twitter. Here's a couple of the answers. Because they be gay themselves, because they feel like they're supposed to, which is what me and Jay talked about. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, some think the sin is unforgivable, which is not true. The church has yet to learn how to address all sin. Because it's a sin that we can outwardly see, which Jay just said. It's the same thing when women get pregnant outside of marriage because their sin is out. You get sat down. It's just like the Scarlet Letter, really.
Yes.
That's a hard one. I think it's just the idea of what goes on in a gay relationship intimately that makes it unforgivable among the saints. Somebody else said they're trying not to condone sin. However, Jesus is the lion and the lamb. The duality is what we have yet to master, but we need to. So they're saying there's a lot of the same things as Jay. Now what they're taught to was really interesting because me and Jay were talking about this. We said that we feel like church culture, not necessarily the pastor, or the leadership, but the church, the people in the church, you're taught more so than anything that gayness is wrong and how to, like growing up apostolic, me and Jay did, it was like the cardinal sin. It was like whatever, Hester Rose in the Scarlet Letter, that's what gayness was. Like
exactly.
The most crazy thing, that you could do was be gay.
And it's so the other thing is because you can't procreate. You can't create children from that type of relationship. And when people think about it, it's just in your natural sense, nobody has a child and says, if they're gay, I'll be okay with it. Everybody hopes their child doesn't be gay. Like I literally ask my children, and I'll say, well, do you have a boyfriend? They'll say no. Do you have a girlfriend? And they'll be like, Dad, no. I'll be like, hey, I gotta ask.
Right.
Not because I'm gonna judge them, because I just want to see where they're at.
Right.
And it's just in this day and age, it almost seems like it's a fad for some people. You don't necessarily know where people are coming from. But when it comes with the church, we're taught not to be judgmental, but we're some of the most judgmental people of others, unforgiving of others, backbiters. We're probably the most hypocritical people of everybody that is in the world, and it's kind of funny to shame, but it's the truth.
And it's interesting that you say your kids, because I felt that way. Before I had a kid, my son better not be gay.
He better
blah,
not.
Blah blah.
He better not.
Right. But once you have a kid, like I think having kids taught me more about unconditional love than having a wife, right? Because I didn't create Melissa, I didn't have to care and nurture her.
You didn't?
No, she came, bro. She was big already.
Wow.
But the kids, you have a part in their creation, and they literally have nothing. Like if you don't care for them, they will die. Mm-hmm. So that love that a parent has, I can't imagine if my son says he's gay. I can't imagine just being like, depart from me, you worker of iniquity, I know you're not. I wouldn't be happy, but I wouldn't cast him away like I used to think I would. Now here's the other thing. People are like, well, what if that's a joke? There's a lot of things I wouldn't want my son to be outside of being gay. Dealer? I wouldn't want to be a drug, just as much as gay. A drug dealer, a gang, a murderer, addicted to drugs. That's another thing. Me and Jay have a cousin who's addicted to drugs. Yeah. That was hard. Like that was really hard. You know he knows right.
Yeah.
You know he knows what he's doing to his body is wrong.
And he has this addiction that's driving him a different way, and you don't know how to help.
And he's raised the same way as us. That's another thing we talked about. He raised in the same church as us. Parents, he had a 2-parent home. We didn't even have that for a lot of our childhood. So it's not, none of his other siblings turned out this way. So it's not like a parenting thing. There was nothing wrong with him. He wasn't molested. Yeah. None of that stuff. He had every opportunity every other kid had. He just made these choices, and his parents didn't change anything else. Now, a couple of things I want to mention too. I was talking to Kenny about this, and he was saying one of his pastor's, friends, she's a lesbian, like, takes hormone pills and beard and everything. And her dad was like, dude, this is my daughter. I love her. Like, she's in the family photos with the beard and everything. And he's like, and Ken was just like blown away. But he was like, what are you supposed to do? That's your daughter. What are you supposed to do? You know what I mean? Like, and another thing that messed me up, I was watching MTV and it was like True Life, I'm Gay or something like that. And it was saying that, like, if the parents of that gay kid, like, shun them, they have like a 70% chance of suicide.
Yep. It's an acceptance thing. I mean, it's just, I don't know how I would deal with it as a parent. I would be hurt, but I wouldn't. I mean, that's my child.
Yeah. Same thing like if Zayzay got a girl pregnant at 14, 15, 16, you'd be like, dude, what are you doing?
It's my child, man. At the end of the day, it's mine, and as a parent, I'm responsible for their well-being. Right. Now, at some point, they are going to make their own choices, and all I can do as a parent is help them, guide them, and then when they get in those situations, hopefully that my teachings and everything that I said will help them make the choice, the right choice, and whatever the right choice is for them, because they're young adults, all of them. Right. They're young adults. They're creating they're making their own habits and ways and things about their own life, their own identities, and I couldn't imagine. I know every generation has said this. I couldn't imagine growing up in their generation,
right? And
I definitely couldn't, because everything is so out there from going. You're talking about it. It's Facebook, it's Twitter, it's Instagram, it's all over the place. As soon as you say anything, and kids readily identify themselves with those things right now. So a lot of times when kids are searching for identity, they attach themselves to different things that everybody else is doing. Right. And you hope as a parent, when you bring them back home and you take them out of the world and you're in your home talking to them, that some of the things that you're telling them and you're teaching them are gonna just resonate in their mind later. But I will say this to parents, and you guys already know this: what you show them is gonna do more than what you're gonna tell them.
Right. So, and here's an interesting thing. Like when I was talking about this, the gay pastors on Twitter, and one of the comments that I saw a lot is if we accept them, it's a spirit of tolerance, right? Now, the church, to me, has a spirit of tolerance for other sins.
Yeah.
Right? I was talking to my boy, he will remain nameless. He's a musician at church, right? Yeah. And I asked him the same question. Why do you think the church, treats gay people differently? And he was like, yo, they could come to church, but they can't operate. They can't, do nothing. They can just sit down and learn the word. Now, I called him on it. I was like, okay, but you've been fornicating for years.
Right.
Right? Like, he watches porn, has sex.
He put the foreign in fornication.
Everything.
I'm foreign.
But he's on the drums. Right. Every Sunday.
Right.
Because his sin is one of the ones that we understand.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
it's hard, bro.
Right.
It's hard.
Exactly.
It's hard, bro.
It's just like David and Nathan. Like when Nathan told David, what would you do to a man who had all these goats? And he went and took somebody else's goat, his one goat. What would you do?
It is on and everything.
Right. But when it's you,
it's like,
it's harder to see. Like we never see our own sins the way. And I think it's funny because I was watching the Bible and it was the part the Bible on the History Channel, and it was the one where they stoned the woman, right? She's an adulterer, let's stone her. And Jesus is like, well, he's without sin, cast the first stone. So once the onus is back on you, then it's like,
I think I'm less judgmental than most because I know my own struggles.
Man, I think that for me, 3 things help me. I'm very aware of my own sin.
Man, for real.
My family has every sin you can think of. People in jail, everything. We can't even tell you the things because you guys wouldn't believe it.
You guys wouldn't even understand it.
People, gay members in we have everything, and our family is so tight-knit. There's no outcasts, right? And we just aren't raised that way. So if I shun you, I'm shunning my own family member. And also the thing I think, and this is the most interesting thing, right? So we were both fornicating for a long time.
Thanks, bro.
Right? But what helped us, right? It was people loving us in the church, right? While we were yet in sin. Now this took years for us to get right. While we were yet in sin, people loving us, inviting us to their house, to church picnics, just loving us. And then we go into church. We worked in the church. They let us work in auxiliaries, and then the word pricked our heart as we went.
Slowly but surely.
Pricked our heart. Now the way we treat gay people as a church, we don't offer them that same opportunity. We don't welcome them. This is just my church. Maybe your church is different. I'm talking about the churches I've been in for the last 30 years. We don't welcome them. We don't allow. We do allow them to operate. There's a lot of gay choir directors. That's not a stereotype, but that's the truth. And on another note, we have a lot of friends in the gospel industry that tell us that
so and so is gay.
80% of the music you hear is from gay people, either the writer, producer, or artist. I've heard the names. I don't want to name the names, but I was appalled, right? My favorite artist of all time really is Tone,
Yeah.
right? And he didn't even struggle. He said, you know, in the Let's interview, I didn't struggle.